I think I've tried to make it, a fun environment working on the Clone Wars, so that we get that, excitement and energy. We bring them all in together to play off one another, and we run the scenarios, and I do find myself saying faster, more intense. I absolutely do, without even realizing the relationship at first. I was like, it's just the right thing to say.
There you go. The legacy lives on, for sure. That's awesome.
Right. I mean, what else can you do?
That is awesome. So, you know what? You bring up gathering the voice talent all together. We know that's one of your jobs, to sit in there and obviously direct the actors and everything. What else do you do to work on the Clone Wars? You've mentioned, you're obviously a great artist. You've mentioned before that you've designed actual helmets and even Plo Koon's gauntlets and everything. What else fills up your day when you're working on this show?
It really depends. I mean, I have so many different tasks on any given day. It just ranges. I mean, I start with George and the scripts. That's kind of the primary, and work on the story. We beat that out, and then get the writers in. And I hear from George when he pitches to me and the writer what the story is going to be, so I can kind of make sure that stays on track. And then I put that into the data bank and in my head, and try to make sure that whatever George says gets up on screen, as faithfully and as exciting as possible. And I have to steer that ship. So if we just look at one episode, it might be, I work on the story that way. And then if there's a character that I feel strongly about, like for Ayla, I took the time to design just her face myself for what I wanted to see. I did the same thing with Luminara. Oddly, I didn't do Plo Koon. I let Killian Plunkett do that. I really deferred because he's such a strong artist. And I have a great design team. So then I'll have a meeting with the designers where I kind of spit out, this is the way I think I see this episode, and here's a bunch of images George gave me as well, and the episodic directors, and I kind of lay out, this is kind of what I'm expecting to see. And then they design it for a while, and I go over, the look, the shape, the color, everything there, and episodic director might have some ideas, and I okay or don't okay those ideas, and all the while I might be an editorial working on a cut of an episode. So once, it's all designed and they start building the models, I've got tremendously talented people and leads, and they kind of make sure that it's all going, and Killian watches over the designs that have been laid out to make sure they stay pat. And, there comes a point where then I sit down with the episodic director and the script, and we go over it, and we try to shoot holes in it to see, whether it really works or not, and we try and problem solve before we shoot it. And if I have to, I'll do rewrites on it before it goes to shooting, and I'll change certain scenes or dialogues before it goes out. And then I sit there and I basically sit at a table and I read the whole script to the story team of that particular episode with the episodic director. And because when you hear this stuff said out loud, you tend to know whether or not it's really working versus what you read it on the page. And so then we beat it out, and then I'll talk about camera angles or setups or things I'd like to see, and then the episodic director goes, and then it's his episode, to bring into the Avid. Mm-hmm. So he gets several weeks to work on it, and then I'm doing all those other things I mentioned on another episode somewhere, or working on, lighting and animation and proving that stuff, which is coming back from other episodes. But at a certain point, the episodic director gets all the shots in, and it goes into the Avid, and I sit down with him, and I start going over the episode, shot by shot, sequence by sequence. And, sometimes they need more help than not. George has taught me a lot, so I'll start cutting it and sharpening it, and then they kind of have to watch what I'm doing. So the next episode they do, I probably do it less, Mm-hmm. Depends. There are a lot of factors that go into it. But I have to shepherd the show from beginning to end to make sure it meets George's expectation. And, as I go along and do that, the leads on the show in every department learn more and more about what George and I are looking for. So, they have less and less notes, and they just get to be creative in their own right. But at the end of the day, I do make sure I've approved everything and overseen it, because if George doesn't like it, I want that blame to fall squarely at me, mm-hmm. and not anybody else. So there's never a time where I go, oh, that was because of such and such. It's like, no, I made that decision. I was wrong. Sorry. It's quite as simply as that, because it's it's a lot of pressure, as you can imagine, to sit down with footage of something called Star Wars and try and show it to George Lucas and say, hey, this is what you asked for, right? And I don't like that pressure to fall on my crew because they're working so hard. They're great individuals. But honestly, it's a good working atmosphere, and George has really come to love what we do, and I think he trusts the artists here, and he feels very comfortable with us. So it's not like this heavy, we're sweating it scenario. I mean, a lot of times we're having fun and laughing, and, you know, we bring him in, and I say this will be a good one or this will be a rough one, and, you know, he enjoys working on it. So,
there's a scene in the making of episode 1, the documentary, the beginning. There's a scene where John Knoll is being presented by George. He's presenting the storyline, the breakdowns for The Phantom Menace, and they're looking at storyboards and everything. And John says that the thoughts that kept running through his mind were, oh my God, how are we going to do that? And then the storyboard would change, and the next storyboard would appear, and he'd say, oh my God, how are we going to do that?
I had a great talk with John Knoll about that, and we found that we have very similar problems. So, you know, one time we had faithfully recreated a certain environment, and I said, hey, we did this, and we kind of followed what you guys did, and then we found out that this ship didn't really fit in this hangar. He's like, oh, yeah, that's right. We had that same problem. We had to cheat it. And I was like, oh. All right, so I guess we'll just cheat it. It's good to know that we're right. But I kind of just gave up worrying about that a long time ago, because when we do the story pitch, it just gets in the way, and I don't want to sit and say, I don't know how we're going to do that. I just go, okay, well, we're going to have to figure out how to do that, you know, and because George is so driven with the creativity to just do, you know, there's no end to what he wants to get on that screen. So what we've done is we've just got a group of people that are game to try it and say, you know, let's make a city planet in all its glory in television animation, and we just go for it. But there's a lot of times where I'm like, wow, I wonder what that's going to look like. And then we figure it out over time, and we get it, you know, most of the time up there. It's always something to see it like several months later and be like, wow, there it is. Hey, this is Dave Filoni of Star Wars The Clone Wars, and you are listening to Rebel Force Radio with Jason and Jimmy.